Toad from Mario can be one of the most ridiculous and yet overpowered support builds in Dungeons & Dragons. I've built a ton of characters from Nintendo and especially from Mario, but there is always one character that I've been missing, and that's Toad or Toadette. And so I wanted to build them as a support character, but they've been around since the very beginning of Mario. So I think they deserved to be an overpowered support. But being Toad, they have to be ridiculous at the same time. So I have an absolutely insane multi-class that goes into way more classes than it probably makes sense, but it turned out to be insanely powerful as a support build. It's going to get a little complicated, so if you want to follow along, I'll have the character sheet up on Patreon, but let's dive in, starting with the species. Going with a more mushroom type character, I was very tempted to go with things like Furbolg, or even a Wood Elf, or even an Earth Genasi, but none of those felt quite right. Instead, I'm going to go with a Halfling. You get to focus in on that small size in a lot of ways, with things like Halfling Nimbleness, being able to move through larger creature spaces, naturally stealthy, being able to hide behind anybody that's at least one size larger than you, but you also get two other features, one of which is to overcome the fear that Toad is probably feeling a lot of the time, with Brave, giving you advantage against the frightened condition. And the other feature is Luck. So when you roll a 1 on any d20 roll, you can re-roll the die, but you have to use whatever your new roll is. Then for a background, we're going to choose the background Wayfarer. This gives us skill proficiencies in Insight and Stealth, but it also gives us the Lucky feat. This gives us a number of luck points equal to our proficiency bonus, which we can use to get advantage on any d20 check that we roll, but more importantly, we can use it as a reaction to force disadvantage on an attack roll against you. And all of the re-rolls that you have available to you is actually going to be kind of important, because we're going to be doing an insane multi-class that is going to require a very unoptimized distribution of our ability scores, but we'll get into that soon. First, let's start with the first class of what is going to be a lot of multiclassing. And if you're going with a support, you gotta go with a Bard. This gives us 3 skill proficiencies right from the start, so we can grab Perception, Investigation, and Survival. All of those are able to support the party in a lot of great ways, being a lookout, investigating the scene, and making sure you can track down food in a survival situation. Then you get the very first support type thing you can do, with the feature Bardic Inspiration. So as a bonus action, you can inspire another creature within 60 feet of yourself, and whenever they fail a d20 roll, they can roll a Bardic Inspiration die and add it to the number, possibly turning it into a success. Now you only get a number of Bardic Inspiration die equal to your Charisma modifier, so we're going to have to keep that in mind. That Bardic Inspiration die is currently a d6, but once we get to at least level 5 of Bard, it becomes a d8, but we won't be getting any higher than that because we got to do a lot of multiclassing. Then Bards also get some spellcasting. So for some cantrips, we're going to grab Friends to help with social situations, Light to light the path for Mario and anybody else, and Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery works in 2 ways. First, you get to insult somebody and deal 1d6 psychic damage, which does upgrade as you level up in your build. But on top of that, it has a support feature by forcing disadvantage on that target's next attack roll. Then for some first level spells, we're going to grab Cure Wounds, so you have some healing, Featherfall to stop anybody from taking fall damage, which can be brutal in Mario, followed up with Healing Word, so you have a bonus action heal, but we will be using our bonus action for a lot of other stuff pretty frequently. And then finally, Silvery Barbs, forcing an enemy to immediately have disadvantage on something and giving an ally advantage at the same time. All of these spells do not require any saving throw or really get major influence from your spellcasting modifier, except a little bit from the healing. But healing got boosted in 2024 anyways, so it's not going to be a major impact. Then at second level of Bard, you get Jack of all trades. So any skill you don't have proficiency with, you now have half proficiency in it. And at this level, you also get Expertise, so you can double your proficiency bonus in 2 skills. So you can hide behind people a bit better, you're going to want to boost up your stealth, and be a better lookout with Perception. Then at third level Bard, you get access to second level spells. So we'll grab 3 more spells that don't require your ability modifier. One is Aid. This will boost up everybody's hit points, giving them additional base hit points and healing them for the same amount. Then we'll grab Enlarge Reduce. This one can require a saving throw if you're trying to reduce an enemy, but more than likely, you're going to be using this on Mario to make him really big, and there's no need for a saving throw in that situation. Then last, we have Heat Metal. This spell is so good. So any enemy that's holding onto a metal object or wearing metal, like with armor, that metal can be heated up, dealing fire damage, and there's nothing they can do about it. No saving throw. They only have to do a save if they want to hold on to the item, but if they're in contact with it, no matter what, they have disadvantage on attack rolls, and they're just stuck taking the fire damage. Then at 3rd level, you get to choose a bard subclass, and if we're focused so much on being a support type build, we need to also debuff our enemies, and a great way to do that is with the College of Eloquence from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This gives us the feature Silver Tongue, so when you make a charisma, persuasion, or deception check, you can treat any roll of a 9 or lower as a 10, but more importantly, you get the feature Unsettling Words. So as a bonus action, you can expend one of your Bardic Inspiration and choose one creature you can see within 60 feet of you. You get to roll the Bardic Inspiration, and that creature must subtract the number rolled from their next saving throw. So you are reducing saving throws left and right, while at the same time buffing your own party. Then at 4th level of being a bard, you get to choose an ability score improvement. So we're going to take a great supportive feat and go with Inspiring Leader. This allows us to boost our charisma by 1 point. So here are our ability scores. Obviously, we're very widespread. We have low health and low dexterity, meaning low armor class. But we do have decent intelligence and wisdom and pretty solid charisma. Then we're going to throw 1 point into charisma with this feat. Then this feat gives us the feature Bolstering Performance. So when you finish a short or long rest, you can give an inspiring speech, song, or dance. And frankly, I don't know if I could take an entire speech from Toad, because if you've heard what their voice actually sounds like, it's pretty grating. But when you do so, you get to choose up to 6 allies, including yourself, and all of them can get temporary hit points equal to your character level plus the modifier you increased with this feat. And basing anything off of a character level is going to be really helpful, because we're going to be doing so much multiclassing here that is going to be a huge boost. Then at 5th level of Bard, you get access to 3rd level spells. And here is where we're finally going to get a couple spells that are actually going to require a saving throw. With Enemies Abound, so you can force your enemies to start attacking each other, or Hypnotic Pattern, which can totally neutralize an entire group of enemies. Then finally, follow it up with Mass Healing Word, so you can heal a huge group of allies all at the same time. Also at 5th level, you get Font of Inspiration, so you regain your Bardic Inspiration on a short or long rest. And you can regain a Bardic Inspiration just by expending a spell slot. Then at 6th level of being a College of Eloquence Bard, you get Unfailing Inspiration. So your inspiring words are so persuasive that others feel driven to succeed. So when a creature adds one of your Bardic Inspiration die to their ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, and the roll fails, they can keep the Bardic Inspiration, meaning even though you have less Bardic Inspiration because your charisma is a little lower than you'd probably like, those Bardic Inspiration are still going to be stretched a bit further. And also that grating voice is going to be working a little better, because at 6th level, thanks to being an Eloquence Bard, you get Universal Speech. So as an action, one or more creatures within 60 feet of you, up to the number equal to your charisma modifier, can magically understand your language, regardless of what language you actually speak. Then I think that's enough Bard for now. So it's time for our first multiclass. And Mario is all about power-ups or even special gear he might get. And a great way to amp this up is by going with an Artificer. By choosing an Artificer, you get to choose another skill. So I would just grab Arcana. It comes in handy a lot. Then Artificers get more spell casting. So for some more cantrips, I would grab Resistance, because you can cast this on anybody, reducing all sorts of damage by 1d4. Followed up with Spare the Dying to save anybody that is knocked out. And then for some 1st level spells, I would grab Grease, so your enemies just keep slipping and sliding. Jump, so Mario can jump a lot better. Long Strider to boost up your allies' speed. Then Sanctuary to save your allies from taking any damage at all. And one more actual attacking spell with Tasha's Caustic Brew. This will require a dex save, and it will be against your intelligence, so use it wisely. It is an often overlooked spell. because it covers a creature in acid, and it can target any creatures within a 30-foot long line. Then the creature automatically takes 2d4 acid damage at the start of each of its turns, unless it actually uses its own action economy to scrape off the acid. So as long as they fail the initial save, they either waste a turn or constantly take 2d4 acid damage. Then at first level of Artificer, you get Tinker's Magic, so you can create all sorts of stuff you might use, especially since it seems like Toad is often spelunking and stuff, so making things like ropes or grappling hooks or shovels would probably be pretty handy. Then to amp up the supportive nature, you get Replicate Magic Item. So you can give a +1 weapon or wraps of unarmed power. So even if Mario is playing as a monk and doing lots of punching and kicking, you can give him wraps that boost up his punching and kicking ability. There's plenty of other magical items you can make, but I don't want to run through all of them. Just know that you can support your party in any way they need. Then at third level of Artificer, you get to choose an Artificer subclass. There's lots of great Artificer subclasses, but the most supportive one is the Alchemist. This is where you get to brew lots of power-ups for Mario and his crew. By taking this subclass, you automatically get tool proficiency with alchemist supplies and the herbalism kit, making it so you can make tons of potions and healing salves and things like that. And if you are crafting a potion, the amount of time required to craft it is cut in half. You get some additional spells added to your spell list by default with Healing Word and Ray of Sickness, and you get the feature Experimental Elixir. So when you finish a long rest, you can create 2 elixirs. Rolling on the experimental elixir table, you roll a d6 and see what you get, and anybody can drink an elixir as a bonus action. And if you want to create more elixirs, you can just use a spell slot to create some. These experimental elixirs can heal someone for 2d8 plus your intelligence modifier. They can make somebody faster by 10 feet for an hour. They can boost an ally's armor class by 1. They can give them a +1d4 to any attack roll and saving throw they make for the next minute. Or you can even hook up Mario with a wing cap and grant flight, even though that flying speed is only 10 feet. But if you roll a 6 on the table, you get to choose whatever you want. Then at 4th level of Artificer, you get to choose another ability score improvement. So we're going to throw 1 point into Charisma, rounding it out, and 1 point into Intelligence, since that's our secondary casting ability. Now it's time for yet again another multiclass, and we're going to be diving into Cleric. Cleric is actually going to be our toughest multiclass. At first, we get some spellcasting. So we'll grab cantrips like Guidance to help our party out even more, Thaumaturgy so you can boom out your voice, which is already grating enough as it is, or do a variety of other things. Then we'll grab a couple damaging spells, even though Wisdom is going to be our lowest casting modifier, with Sacred Flame and Toll the Dead. You just need to know when to use these. When it comes to first level spells, we only want to focus on things that are going to be helping our party and nothing else. Because like I said, Wisdom's going to be staying low, so you don't want anybody to try to save against the spells. So boost up your allies with the spell Bless, giving allies an extra 1d4 for attack rolls or saves, Detect Evil and Good, Protection from Evil and Good, and then finally, to boost up an ally's armor class by 2, you also want to grab the spell Shield of Faith. Then at second level of Cleric, you get to choose a Divine Order. We're going to go with Thaumaturge because Protector for a Divine Order would give us access to heavy armor and martial weapons, but we don't have the strength to be able to use that anyways. So Thaumaturge will just give us an extra cantrip, as well as giving us a bonus to Arcana or Religion checks, equal to our Wisdom modifier. The extra cantrip is just going to be Mending because there's nothing else that's really going to be that helpful. Second level gives us access to Channel Divinity, which we can use for Divine Spark to heal allies or damage an enemy, and Turn Undead to just turn some undead enemies away in case you're coming up against any skeleton turtle things. Then at third level of Cleric, you get access to a Cleric subclass. And one of the absolute best Cleric subclasses is a Twilight Cleric. It comes from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It gives us some additional domain spells with Fairy Fire, which is another great support spell that I wanted to grab way earlier, but the only reason I didn't is because you get it for free here, and then you can get See Invisibility, Sleep, and Moonbeam. Becoming a Twilight Cleric also gives you Eyes of Night, so you can see through the darkness, and give an ally Dark Vision as well, just being another way to support your allies. And you get the feature Vigilant Blessing. So as an action, you can give one creature you touch advantage on their next initiative roll, just adding more and more buffs to the party. But the absolute biggest buff you can possibly give is by using your Channel Divinity for the Twilight feature, Twilight Sanctuary. So as an action, you can present your holy symbol and a sphere of twilight emanates from you in a 30-foot radius, lasting for 1 minute, and every time a creature ends one of its turns there, it gains temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus your cleric level. Now, we're not going to be taking a bunch of cleric levels, but still 1d6 plus the few cleric levels we are taking is still super powerful because it's every single turn without requiring any action economy from you after it gets started. But if they don't need any temp HP because you've already granted it with your Inspiring Leader perk or anything like that, you can also just end a charmed or frightened condition against them. And finally, at 3rd level, you also get access to 2nd level spells. So we'll grab Augury, which allows you to kind of get an idea of what a good idea and bad idea is during gameplay, so you're able to make better decisions and guide the party. You can also have Enhance Ability, so you can touch a creature and boost up their strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma checks by giving them advantage on one of them. You can heal everybody up a lot easier with Prayer of Healing. And then the final one you just want to grab is See Invisibility, just in case you come up against any invisible enemies. Then at 4th level of Cleric, you get another ability score improvement. And I'm actually going to throw 1 point into charisma and 1 point into dexterity. Now, I know that people might want me to immediately max out one of our casting abilities here, but this is more about supporting our party. So we're willing to sacrifice that tiny bit of charisma for now. And the 1 point of dexterity is actually going to be a big help because we have another multiclass that kind of requires it, because we're going to be multiclassing for a very tiny amount into fighter. Now this is going to seem a little weird because we're only going to take a couple levels, but this is actually going to help us in 2 great ways. First, to get an epic boon, you need to get an ability score improvement at level 19 or 20. So in order to time that out, we want to take 2 levels in something that will allow that type of pacing. Then on top of that, by becoming a fighter, we get another supportive feature with a fighting style, because just by wielding any weapon or a shield, I would recommend a shield because otherwise your armor class might be suffering a bit, you can take the fighting style Interception, allowing you to take a weapon or a shield and intercept some damage coming at an ally within 5 feet of you, using your reaction to reduce damage from an attack roll by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. Meaning that this does not rely at all on any ability score modifiers or the amount of levels in a particular class. It's just your proficiency bonus, which goes up with your total levels. And it's one more thing you can use your reaction for in case you don't want to use a spell slot or something. And in order to take this fighting style, that's why I threw that 1 point into dexterity, because you can't multiclass into fighter unless you have at least 13 in strength or dexterity. Then also at 1st level of fighter, you get Second Wind, giving you some additional hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action. You get a weapon mastery, but we don't really care about that. And at 2nd level of fighter, you get Action Surge. So you can take an entire extra action on one of your turns once per short or long rest. Only trouble is that it can't be a magic action, so you're pretty limited there. And then finally, you get Tactical Mind. So if you fail an ability check, you can use one of your second wins to add 1d10 to whatever your ability check was and see if it possibly succeeded. But if it fails still, you don't use up the second win. Now it's time for the final multiclass, the 5th multiclass of this build. Like I said, it's a little ridiculous, but we're going to be diving into Wizard, utilizing that secondary casting modifier that we used before. By becoming a wizard, we get more spell casting. So we'll grab the cantrip Chill Touch, which has a bonus feature that forces an enemy to not be able to heal, and that can really be a lifesaver. Then we'll grab Gust to push enemies around the battlefield, Infestation to force enemies to run in random directions, and Mind Sliver, forcing an enemy to subtract even more from their next saving throw. And if you combine that with your Bardic Inspiration feature from being an Eloquence Bard, that's a big reduction in their next saving throw. Then for some first level spells, we want to grab Shield. Your armor class is not going to be super great, so having Shield available as a reaction can be a lifesaver. We'll grab Cause Fear to force enemies to run away. And finally, Find Familiar. Find Familiar is a great assisting spell because your familiar can use the help action, giving advantage to an ally. You get some other stuff at first level of Wizard, and then at second level of Wizard, you get Scholar, basically giving you expertise in one particular type of skill. So we're going to boost up your investigation. And then at third level of Wizard, you get to choose a Wizard subclass. I was tempted to go with Abjurer because then you could block some more damage, but we already have a few ways to deal with that. So instead, I would go with a Diviner. This is all about seeing the future. So when you finish a long rest, you can roll 2 d20s, record what you rolled, and you can replace any d20 test made by you or a creature that you can see with one of these rolls. So if you're in a situation where you absolutely need an enemy to suck at something, or you need an ally to be really good at something, and you have a nat 20 or a nat 1 ready to go, you can automatically distribute those out. And there's no saving throw or anything required. It just happens, making it an absolutely amazing support build. But then also at 3rd level, you get access to 2nd level spells. So we'll grab Dragon's Breath so you can give somebody a power up that allows them to breathe elemental damage. Gift of Gab so that way you're a little better at talking to people when you really need to. Magic Weapon to boost up the damage of an ally's weapon, and to lock down even more enemies, grab Web. You mix that with Mario having a fire flower, somebody trapped in a web receives extra damage from fire. And then finally, at 4th level of Wizard, you get access to another ability score improvement. But because of how we timed everything out, we can choose an epic boon. So we're going to choose the Boon of Fate. We have a lot of ways to be able to change people's rolls, boosting them or decreasing them. But the Boon of Fate is going to amp this up even further. First, we get to increase one ability score by 1 point. So we'll throw 1 point into Charisma, finally maxing it out. But this also gives us the feature Improve Fate. So when you or another creature within 60 feet of you succeeds or fails on anything requiring a d20 roll, you can roll 2d4 and apply the total to whatever was rolled, as a bonus or a penalty. You can only do this once per initiative or per short or long rest. That's another way to skew all of the odds in your party's favor. And this feels like one of the most ridiculous support builds I could possibly come up with, which seems very fitting for somebody like Toad from Mario. I have the character sheet for this build up on Patreon, and I built this because the new Super Mario Galaxy movie was coming out. But I've already built plenty of other characters from the Mario universe, which is great for plenty of players. But if you might be a dungeon master, I know of somebody else that might help you out. I recently connected with Major Illusion, another D&D YouTuber, and he just made a Mario setup with bosses and items perfect for dungeon masters. So I'd love it if you checked out his stuff. We just recently started collaborating, and it's always great to have more friends in the D&D YouTuber space. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button. And I'll be here helping you roll these 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want one of the most ridiculous support builds I could possibly come up with, playing as Toad from the Mario universe in Dungeons & Dragons.